What up, YouTube? This video is about meditation for dyslexics. Now, I've been using the Headspace app for about 3 months now, and there was a time when I first started using it, I used it for I didn't miss a meditation for, I think 45 days straight. And at first, the reason I was doing is because I wanted to figure out a way to have a more even mood and temper control and emotional I don't know how to say it, emotional stability. So whenever I was faced with a situation where I was out of my comfort zone, or it's something that was frustrating me, or if it was something that I was being annoyed by, I wanted to wanted to approach that situation with more equanimity. So it worked. And I had meditated before in the past, but I've never done it seriously. I never done it every single day, on a consecutive basis. But I was only using it for 20 minutes a day, and it had a really huge impact on my mood, and I wouldn't get frustrated with little things here and there. So I started developing more of a curiosity around meditation, and I found out some really cool things that is especially relevant to dyslexic. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you guys about today in this video, is how meditation, well, there's one thing in meditation that is really correlated with dyslexia, and I wonder if you master meditation, you'd be able to master how your mind works in relation to how dyslexia works. Anyways, that's what this video is about. I want to talk to you guys a little bit more about it. But before we get to that, first thing I want to talk to you guys about is okay, so what is meditation, right? Well, most people think it's just sitting in a mat and or a pillow, or some ashram somewhere, and just turning off your brain and just not thinking about anything. And that's what I thought too, but it turns out that's not what it is. The more I'm learning about meditation, what it is you're learning to create space between your thoughts, and also awareness of your thoughts and your surroundings, and also how you focus on certain things. So in meditation, there's 4 ways that our brain really, actually in life in general, this is not related to meditation specifically. In life in general, there are 4 modes that our mind goes through. The first mode is what's called rumination, and rumination is when you have one thought leading to another thought leading to another thought. So it could be you grab a cup of coffee because you're about to go to work, and then you start thinking about that time you had a coffee with your friend, and he said something to you, and that he was, how selfish is this dude, and then that leads into the time you were selfish, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on, without ever stopping. It's a never-ending chain of thoughts, and it's pretty much automatic. And the reason why it happens is because your brain is activated in what's called the default mode network. So it's not specifically thinking about stuff, but it's just randomly just bringing up information, and you're constantly ruminating on things that you don't even need to ruminate on, things that are not even that important. The next level above that is concentration. So when you're concentrating on something, actually it's contemplation. Contemplation is when you're maybe you're a scientist, maybe you're a YouTube creator, maybe you're a teacher, maybe you're a parent, something like that, and you have this problem that you're trying to solve, and it's constantly running in the background. So you're just thinking about this thing over and over again, and you're trying to figure out different ways to solve this problem in your head. So a lot of scientists run a contemplation program in their mind all the time. So they're constantly trying to solve this big problem that they can't solve hours. It'll take years, maybe even months to sometimes solve this thing. So they're constantly thinking about this thing, and the things that they're thinking about isn't new information. They're old things that they've already contemplated for a while, and what they're looking for is some insight into solving this thing. And sometimes it does happen, once in a while, maybe months after thinking about something, you'll be able to connect one dot to another dot, and then boom, you have an insight and a solution to this, really bright solution to this problem. And then the next step above that is concentration. Now, concentration is when you're singularly focused on one single activity, right? So this could be, and when you're playing a video game or something, or when you're doing a new activity, your whole mind has to focus on this one thing, or you're not able to complete it. A lot of the time, sometimes people call this a flow state, where the thing that you're doing is like just beyond what you're capable of doing, so you need to have like 100% concentration. And people love being in the flow state because it makes time go easier. It makes you feel really good once you accomplish this thing, and it's just like a good state to be in. And you don't have to be in a flow state to get there. A lot of meditators can activate this like single-minded focusedness, and you can kind of get there. And the last step, so we have rumination, contemplation, concentration, and the last thing is meditation. And meditation is when you're able to just turn off most things in your mind, like the random thoughts that happen in your mind, and you're able to achieve what's called mental pliancy. And this is a state where you're not perturbed by different thoughts that are coming in. So like you're still having different like ideas and thoughts coming into your mind, but the thing that you're doing is you're actually able to like detect it, and you're aware of these thoughts coming in, and you can kind of like see the thought come in, and you can kind of like swat it away. And as the thoughts are coming in, you're able to recognize this thought in your periphery, and then you're still able to focus on like your breath, or a lamp, or whatever the meditation object is. And most people have, when they're learning to meditate, they have an object that they focus on to help their mind get into the state of mental pliancy. Now that was what was super interesting about once you reach mental pliancy. I got this from the book called The Illuminated Mind. It's like a really famous book. There's like 10 stages to reaching like higher levels of meditation. Maybe I'll do another video on that. But in that book, they talk about something that, when I read it, I was like, what? That's super related to dyslexia. And the thing that they were talking about is once you reach this state of mental pliancy, you are able to unify all areas of your brain. And like, most of the time, if you're not like a person that practices meditation, if you're not a person that constantly gets into flow states, what happens is the different parts of your brains, there's like no dominant area on your brain. So like, there's the ego, there's the the fight mechanism, there's jealousy, there's all these emotional stuff. And what happens is different parts of your brain wears the boss hat. So like at one time it'll be your ego, it'll wear the boss hat. Then another 2 minutes later the empathy will wear the boss hat. And then like 2 minutes after that, your emotional side of your brain will wear the boss hat. And then the whatever wears the boss hat is the part of your brain that is like in control of your mind. And once you reach mental pliancy, which is an interesting thing, is your whole brain gets unified into like one whole, and parts of your brain stop fighting against each other, and they kind of work together. And that got me really thinking, because that's kind of how a dyslexic's brain processes information. So there's these things called mini columns, and I did another video on this. You probably found my channel because of this video, but I'll put a card on the description here. But there's this things called mini columns, and interesting thing about dyslexic brains is the mini columns of dyslexics work with different areas of the brain. So whenever they think about a problem and they're trying to solve something, they use more brain areas than a normal person, where a normal person would use like a localized brain region. A dyslexic uses like a more broad, more brain regions in general to solve this problem. So I was just thinking, like, if you became like a pretty adept meditator as a dyslexic, do you think that you'd be able to be like even more intelligent than you are now? Because then your whole brain is unified, right? And then maybe your circuits are able to function more efficiently, and you're able to come up with even more novel solutions to these problems, right? Yeah, it's interesting. I'm really getting into meditation right now. So before I was only doing about 10 minutes a day. I mean, actually 20 minutes a day. But now I bumped it up to like an hour a day, and at the beginning it was really hard. But the trick is to give yourself permission to just sit there and like not be 100% amazing. And if you give yourself permission to do that, the longer you do it, the easier it's gonna be to like actually start focusing and like practicing meditation. Anyways, I hope you like this one. See ya, love ya, talk to you later.